Okay, let's start with this story that was uncovered by the Oversight Project at the Heritage Foundation. So, Joe Biden has signed a lot of things. He signed a lot of things when he was president of the United States, from executive orders to pieces of legislation to directives to memorandums. But the Oversight Project at Heritage analyzed the signature on every single piece of paper that they could get their hands on that Joe Biden had, at least ostensibly, put his signature on. And they found that on only one document was it Joe Biden's authentic signature. And wait till you hear what document that was that Joe Biden allegedly actually signed, because the story gets weirder. But before we get to that, let's talk about this device. An autopen is what it's called. You feed the piece of paper into it. I mean, think of it almost like you would if you were doing an automatic stapler. You feed the piece of paper into it, and a little machine writes the name. It copies it. In another, if it was used in a different way, it would be called a forgery. It forges Joe Biden's signature, and every single document analyzed by the Oversight Project found that this device, this autopen, forged Joe Biden's signatures. So my question is, I'm sure the same question that you have: who exactly was feeding those pieces of paper into the forgery device? Who was making that decision that an autopen should sign these documents versus Joe Biden? Did Joe Biden even know that a forged version of his signature was being used on all of these directives and memorandums and executive orders and pieces of legislation? Who was this? And then, of course, is this legal? Is this something that's permissible? Or are we facing a situation where there is a valid argument? And I would argue that there is a very strong argument that a document that was signed by an autopen versus the president of the United States is not constitutional. It's not legitimate. It's not legal, unless you happen to have a video of a president with some wild hypothetical scenario with a broken hand who you can see feeding the paper into the autopen with the other hand. Something where you, as the citizen of the United States, are confident that the president had knowledge of that document and consented to it as chief executive by putting his signature somehow on that paper. But I don't feel that confidence when it comes to Joe Biden. Joe Biden has been in cognitive decline since before he was first elected in 2020. We noticed this in 2019, back when Jake Tapper told us that it was offensive to notice that Joe Biden was in cognitive decline, before Jake Tapper wrote a book talking about this massive cover-up the Democrats staged. Jake Tapper, of course, forgetting that he was part of that cover-up. I don't feel confident that Joe Biden knew what the autopen was signing in his name. I don't feel confident that Joe Biden even knew who was feeding these documents to the autopen. So I would like to request, maybe even respectfully demand from the United States Congress that they investigate this. Why don't we investigate who was operating the autopen device, forging Joe Biden's signature on every single document except for one? Who was doing this? Was Ron Klain doing this? Did he have knowledge of this? What about Dr. Jill Biden? How many of these documents did she feed through the autopen? Maybe Susan Rice knows something about this. There were many reports during the Biden administration that Hunter Biden was in a lot of meetings with Joe Biden, which is plausible because we know that Hunter Biden rode on Air Force Two with Joe Biden. When Joe Biden was vice president, he rode on Air Force Two to China to secure a $1.5 billion equity deal. Right as Joe Biden as vice president, his stances on trade with China softened, just coincidentally. What does Hunter Biden know about this autopen? What about Antony Blinken? What does he know about this? Or maybe we should be asking the man behind Joe Biden. Maybe we should be asking the actual puppet master. Maybe we should be asking what Barack Obama knows about this autopen. Maybe we should be asking what John Podesta knows. I respectfully demand from Congress that they investigate this, because the only document that the Oversight Project could locate where it appears Joe Biden's real signature exists is on that very strange announcement that Joe Biden posted on X, of all places, announcing that he was withdrawing his nomination for Democrat, as incumbent for Democrat nominee for president of the United States, the day that Kamala Harris staged her coup against Joe Biden, Kamala Harris and Barack Obama and Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer. And on that document, it appears, according to the Oversight Project, that Joe Biden's real signature exists. So why would that be? When we have reports that Joe Biden was coerced, even strong-armed into posting that. I mean, we know he doesn't know how to use X. We know he didn't actually post it himself. Did he even write it himself? Did he consent to it himself? Questions, I suspect the answer is no. But his real signature, that's the only document on which his real signature resides, and all on the rest, they were all fake. They were all fake. So who's behind it? Who knew about this? And is this legal? I would argue no. It's all fake. It's all fake.